My superhero sidekick is a kitty named Cow. Unfortunately, he's off on his own mission outside today, so maybe he'll pop in later for a little cameo. Was that as bad as I thought it was? Hello, super friends, and welcome back to another episode of Superhero Saturday, where we talk about the arts of superheroes, storytelling, and so much more. My name is Annie, and my favorite subgenre of all time is buddy cop. I don't know why, but I just love the idea of two really different individuals coming together to work on some crime or something, knocking heads, butting elbows, and eventually coming to realize that they can actually be really good friends after all of this is over. Not only do I love seeing this trope in action, but I love using it as well, which is great because it is absolutely awesome when it comes to superhero fiction. Most often what you see in older superhero stories is the dynamic of a superhero with a sidekick, where the power dynamic is very specific. Either the hero is the mentor to the sidekick, or the hero is older or more powerful than the sidekick. Whatever it is, it's very clear that there's this one character here and then this backup over here. The reason that the sidekick trope kind of formed in the superhero genre was because a lot of the main popular superhero characters were adult men, but their audience was often, teenagers or kids. And so they wanted to find a way to connect with their audience a little bit more while still keeping the snowballed effect of a very popular superhero character. So what they did was they usually would find some kind of teen boy that could glom onto the superhero character and imitate a lot of the character's styles and themes and kind of make that into a dynamic duo, as you will, to both keep that main superhero the main thing, but also give kind of like a little homage to the primary audience. That is totally different than the buddy cop dynamic, where both of the heroes in the story, both buddies, are primary characters. And it's hard to say which one is actually the main character because they both contribute heavily to the story. And the main focus of the plot is their interactions with each other when they are unexpectedly joining forces to, for example, fight crime. One of my favorite buddy cop classic film series is actually Rush Hour, which stars Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker, who are a completely hilarious duo together who team up to fight crime, specifically crime that has to do with both of their relative cities of Hong Kong and Los Angeles, and they just become this unlikely pair of friends throughout the course of the movies.
Behind you.
Jackie Chan is an honorary martial arts superhero in my book, both on screen and in real life. And when he teams up with the hilarious Chris Tucker for this picture-perfect action comedy, it's pure buddy cop magic. And most of the sequels hold up too. I just think it's awesome. I love seeing unlikely friends come together, and especially in the name of truth and justice. If you're considering putting a buddy cop dynamic into your superhero story, whether it's a comic book or a comic strip or a novel or a movie or a TV series, whatever, here are a few of my thoughts on this trope to kind of help you think through what really works well in this dynamic and what maybe doesn't. So grab your buddies, super friends, and let's get started. There are a few different ways that you can approach the buddy cop dynamic, but they boil down to these next few points. The first thing that you can do is use complementary or opposing personality traits in the characters so that they can play against one another and have that initial friction when they come together. In literature, this is sometimes referred to as a character foil, but on tvtropes.com, apparently it's also called a onesie trope. As in, one's a loose cannon cop from Los Angeles and one's a by-the-book detective from Hong Kong. How are they going to work together?
Where you think you're going, huh? Didn't I tell you to stay over there by the Duke?
Hey, what do you think you're doing?
This is mind your own business, old man. Stay in the car. Hey, What you doing? I was just trying to find out where you was going, man. You thought I was gonna shoot you? I wanted to go with you.
Hey, what's happening here?
Put the gun down. Put the gun down. I ain't playing with you, man. You think I'm playing with you?
Don't move.
Basically, for this format, what you want to do is find some kind of opposing character traits and put them into each of the buddies so that they can interact with each other at naturally opposing points. Some of the most common types of traits that work well for this are introvert versus extrovert, logical versus emotional, flighty versus focused, rebel versus rule breaker, etc., etc. And a lot of these things can definitely contribute, but I think that it's even better when you can pile on a couple of personality traits that kind of are pitted against each other naturally, because it makes a little bit more of a, complex dynamic. For superheroes especially, what you can also do is use complementary or opposing superpowers to pit those against each other as well. If you pile this on top of the personality traits, it can make it even more complex because not only do they butt heads when they're talking about fighting crime, but they also when they're doing the actual act of fighting crime. This can, for example, be something like fire and ice or fire and wind. Hello, My Hero Academia. Water and lava, or electricity and rubber, psionic and psychic blocking. There are tons of examples out there. If you can think about maybe two powers that really might have trouble interacting with each other, then that might be a great combination for your buddy superhero. Another way you can think about a buddy cop type of situation is to actually think that sometimes what the characters think of as opposing personality types are actually the same thing, pitting the same types of things against each other. This is more like a too many cooks in the kitchen type of situation. For example, if they're both leader type personalities, but they lead in slightly different ways, and because of that, that is the part that actually causes them to butt heads.
Your daddy was a policeman?
15 years LAPD.
My father was also a policeman.
Your daddy was a cop?
Not a cop, an officer, a legend, all over Hong Kong.
My daddy a legend too, all over America.
Or for example, you might have an older commanding officer type who has been buddied up with a young rookie who is exactly like the older character used to be when they were a kid. The most important thing to remember is that the buddy cop dynamic is based on one philosophy, and that's that opposites exist together for a reason. These characters are at odds with each other at first, but eventually they'll have to come together and realize that they need to work together in order to do the most good. In the end, what unifies these characters most should be that they have the same goal, which is usually the pursuit of justice. And once they acknowledge that both of them have that goal in mind or at heart, they can learn to work together with their opposite to make sure that all the bases are covered when they are tackling the job of fighting crime, or saving lives, or finding the victim's killer, or taking over the world. This can also totally work with villains. The next thing to think about is what things that you might want to avoid when using the buddy cop dynamic, because this trope was extremely popular, especially in movies, for a long time. And because of that, there are a lot of versions out there that just ended up doing it wrong. The first thing to avoid is creating characters that are mean to each other for no reason.
Please tell me you speak English. I'm Detective Carter. Do you speak any English? Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
This is especially true if you're casting this in a superhero context. I'm just kind of generally over mean comedy right now. Like, I don't see any reason why we need to, harp on just being mean to one another for the guise of creating tension. There are lots of other better ways to create tension, especially in this dynamic, and still be funny without just being mean to people. And I say this with love because I have definitely fallen into this trap myself before. Just don't be mean. Another thing you want to avoid is the trap of allowing your characters to become too basic. And this is especially true when you're looking for those polar opposites, because it's really easy to fall into the very, very basic version of the buddy cop formula, which is there's one character who's introverted and logical and rule focused, and there's another character that's loose cannon, that's extroverted and social and doesn't follow the rules, but has all the heart. This pairing has been overdone so much, but the reality is there are much more complex characters out there. People are more than just, the robot character and the happy-go-lucky character. So let your characters be more complex. If you want to list out those two types of tropes and their traits and then kind of shuffle them together and mix them up, even that can be easy enough to create a new, more interesting character that isn't just the stock characters. It can work. It definitely can. I just think it's more interesting if you have for example, a very logical social person versus a character who might be more emotional but is also a little bit more introverted. A really, really easy way to make sure that you've got something a little bit more interesting is just to explore different types of personality traits, like, for example, the Myers-Briggs, and pick a couple of different types of personality types that you don't often see in this position and use their shadow type or their opposing type as the buddy character. And the last thing that you want to avoid when creating a buddy cop dynamic is a very forced or unsatisfying resolution at the end of the story. By this, I mean, I don't want to arrive at the final act of a story and see these characters finally working together when they haven't really built on their relationship at all. Don't make them become friends at the end just because it's time for them to be friends. And because you said so. You need to make sure to show them learning to become friends, because this trope is all about the interaction of two personalities, two unique individuals, not just about the fact that they're different or that they have opposing superpowers. It's all about the relationship, and that is the core point of the plot development of the story. Make sure you show them learning to appreciate the other buddies' contributions to the work on the case. Have them begin to take a vested interest in their buddies' backstory, in their interests and their passions.
What you got?
Camel's hump.
What?
Camel's hump.
Kinda good. Need a little hot sauce, but it's kinda good though.
Show them asking the other one for help or feedback, especially in a part where their own personal traits or characteristics aren't well suited for the situation at hand. Or even better, when the buddy isn't available in those types of situations, show that character imitating their buddy and trying their best to use what they've learned from their partner to accomplish whatever needs to be done. This shows the reader that the character really appreciates having that buddy in their life and that they've been taking an interest in learning about them and how they work and applying it into their own lives.
Hey, man, I was just gonna tell you was in the red zone. There's cops all over this place. You know I can do that, bitch. Put your hands up. Put your hands up.
Even if maybe they're not as successful at using those tools that are opposite of their own to a very high degree of success. So there you have it. Those are my tips and favorite parts of the buddy cop trope, which is so cool and I love it so much. What are your favorite character dynamics for different types of paired characters in superhero stories? Have you used the buddy cop trope in your own work and how did it go? Go ahead and pop those down in the comments below and we'll continue the conversation there. I really hope this video was helpful to you guys. If you liked it, go ahead and give us a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more superheroic and storytelling content in the future. And if you want to see my own superheroes in action, part of which have a little bit of a buddy cop dynamic, especially in the first one, go on over to our website at www.fearless9.com and check out some of my books. Thanks again for watching, Super Friends, and we'll see you next time.